Welcome back to this show. We turn our attention to the West Coast here in the U.S., where the death toll from the mudslide in Washington stands at 17. 90 people are still missing, and a moment of silence is being held today. And, you know, we talk about the 239 people on board. There are 90 people still missing in this, and this is just an incredible search and recovery effort right now.
Well, I think what's interesting is the media here. Just like we talked about the plane, everybody was talking about the Malaysian flight, but nobody's really talking about this mudslide. And it's so horrific. Can you imagine dying in the mud, drowning in the mud? I mean, but it's strangely not being reported like the plane is.
You see bits and pieces of it, and I completely agree with you, Dee Dee.
And there's so many people that are missing that have died.
There's 90 people. I mean, the death toll could go up to more than 100 people. They just don't know. And this is an enormous tragedy out there, and I completely agree with you, Dee Dee.
No, I agree with both of you on this. It will probably, unfortunately, go into the triple digits. And it just, again, speaks to the level of sort of natural disasters that have been taking place in the U.S. over the last several years. And it would be very interesting, and I think a positive signal. Barack Obama needs positive signals out of the White House. I believe a few months ago he had promised to start a federal resiliency committee. I would really like to see some sort of resiliency and like initial humanitarian action group beyond FEMA. We know FEMA has its problems, and it would be interesting finally if the White House could just take this policy layup and push for greater resiliency in the U.S.
Well, our hearts are certainly thinking of all those families over there, and we'll probably be continuing to update this story next week as well. Elsewhere in New Jersey, Attorney General David Sampson has announced his resignation. Sampson is the head of the agency that operates the George Washington Bridge. His announcement comes one day after an internal investigation cleared New Jersey Governor Christie of being involved in a scandal that we all know as Bridgegate. Now, I'm going to let you take the lead on this one, Dee Dee. You've rolled your eyes on that one, so you go right ahead.
Well, I've said from the beginning, I think Governor Christie, you know, he's the type of guy who's going to say what he means when he says what he means. And he said, I had nothing to do with this. I knew nothing. And they did this big investigation, and it turns out that he didn't. And if for some reason they found something, don't you think he's smart enough to take the fifth? And he's not. He's still saying the same thing he did from the beginning. So I think he's cleared from this. I think he'll be fine.
And we do want to go to a little bit more on this breaking news, if you will. Let's take a look, and then we'll continue to talk it out.
The George Washington Bridge scandal losing steam after a newly released 300-page report has cleared New Jersey Governor Christie of any knowledge of it, any wrongdoing.
We found that Governor Christie had no knowledge beforehand of this George Washington Bridge realignment idea, and that he played no role whatsoever in that decision or the implementation of it. We further found no evidence that anyone in the governor's office, besides Bridget Kelly, knew of this idea in advance or played any role in the decision or the implementation of it.
Attorney Randy Maestro was hired by the Christie administration to conduct an investigation after it was revealed several lanes at the bridge were deliberately shut down to snarl traffic in a political vendetta against the mayor of nearby Fort Lee, New Jersey.
How could you hire your own attorney to do or hire an attorney representing you to clear you of a charge?
Reaction among Fort Lee residents who sat through hours of traffic gridlock during the scandal last September is mixed. Some seeing the obvious conflict of interest with the report, others giving Christie the benefit of the doubt.
I like to believe him. I think he's a good governor. But, you know, as for knowing for sure, I don't think we'll ever know.
But questions remain, especially since the report did not interview any of the key players in the scandal, aides Bridget Kelly and David Wildstein, or the mayor of Fort Lee, Mark Sokolich. But from the beginning, Christie has denied any wrongdoing.
He wants to clear his name out, I think that's what it is. I mean, he wants to run more powerfully in the future, so he wants to be clear.
The governor has maintained his innocence all along, and now this new report, costing taxpayers nearly $1 million in legal fees, appears to support the governor's side.
Well, we do have to address that question, Dee Dee, and
What else is he
why
gonna
would
do?
you hire an attorney, though, to clear yourself? I mean,
because the Democrats nationally and locally have been piling on him because he's the only one beating Hillary Clinton, and they kept making up these goofy allegations. Who cares about this bridge? They have made this into such a big deal where the rest of the country couldn't care less about a traffic jam or Fort Lee. So it's the Democrats who did this. If you want to blame all this money being spent, blame them. Blame Hillary Clinton. Blame the Hoboken mayor with her little diary. This is just ridiculous. And good for Christie. I think he did the right thing. I mean, what else is he going to do?
Well, what he could have done is he could have called an independent commission or supported an independent commission. And unfortunately, this press conference that I listened to the other day sounded nothing more than a bunch of cheerleaders. And in some cases, I believe the attorneys in the team were former colleagues of his when he was the...
do you think they're going to lose their law degree and lie?
No, but do you think
well,
they're
going
to...
Yeah, they're not going to. I mean, this is so high profile.
But do you think they're going to go after one of their friends?
Look, I think they're going to do their job. And my point is if they found something...
They would be
very trusting.
If they found something, Christie would shut up. He'd say, I'm taking a fifth. I mean, there's no way he's going to
Not if his presidential future is at stake.
Well, of course,
at the expense of being president?
He would know it would come out. Are you kidding me?
I want to talk about David Sampson's resignation in just a minute, but let's weigh in with Dr. Bart right now. Dr. Bart, we've talked so much about Chris Christie's personality, larger than life. Do you think that he's taking the right approach to staying with his story? Is that a good sign of a leader?
Well, I think politically, I might give him the edge here and say this is a good try, but I think it's an incredibly shallow attempt to project himself. I think it's terrible. I think that the psychology here really is this. The retained anger that Bridget Kelly and Stepien and Wildstein must have at this point in time is incredible. They're probably ready to explode. And we're just moving into the middle innings of this story. And I think Christie is in for a real tumble here. I predict, and I know this may sound odd, but I do not think that Christie will be the governor by the end of this year.
Oh, for God's sake. That's the goofiest thing I've ever heard.
Now, you know that Dee Dee...
I agree with him, though.
Oh, my gosh.
Wait, let him finish.
That what's going to happen here is that he's going to be tied to this bridge determination, this decision to close the lanes, and even more significantly, he's going to be tied to this aid, this Sandy relief, which is even worse. And I think that what's going to happen is he's trying to set himself up now to take on what's going to happen down the road with Wildstein and particularly Bridget Kelly, because they're going to go after him, and they're going to go after him with a lot of ammunition. And I think they have excellent attorneys. These attorneys are the best in the country that are representing these two people.
All right. Well, Dr. Bart, we're gonna let Dee Dee weigh in. Do you think that Bridget Kelly, if she does have some sort of information, do you think that she would come out after the elections?
Well, who knows and who cares? Because it's in writing what she did. So, you know, you can't have it both ways, Democrats. I mean, you're thinking, oh, we think Christie had something to do with this, but now they know Bridget did, and now they're saying, oh, she's a victim, it's sexist. Are you kidding me? This is ridiculous. The Democrats are desperate. It's getting old.
I would say, very simply, let's wait. There are a few other investigations coming up. This is not the final one. I agree with Professor Bart. This is a very shallow attempt to realign Christie's potential presidential track, and I think it'll ultimately be a failure. I mean, $1 million of New Jersey taxpayers going into nothing more than a one-sided defense. Yeah, but who signed the check? It wasn't the Democrats. It was the governor's office.
You know what? Sorry, the Democrats are so desperate to get rid of Governor Christie because he's a strong leader and he's not budging. I mean, I give him credit for that.
If something were to come out, and we'll do the best case scenario for Christie and the worst case scenario. Worst case scenario, some information comes out and Christie is found guilty of something. What would that do for the midterm elections, Dee Dee?
It depends what you're talking about, Mia. I mean, that's very broad. I mean, look, if he lied, he's toast. He's not going to be removed from office probably, but he's toast for the presidential.
presidency.
But if there's no evidence of that, he's going to go from here to here very quickly, and he's going to look like the victim, and Republicans all over the country is going to say, hey, look, he stood up to the Democrats, he won, that's our guy.
I would agree.
I was just going to say, best case
that.
scenario, if nothing comes out and all these different investigations find that he didn't do anything wrong, I think this is going to be great for his chances to be president.
Yeah, I think he will then go in, he'll be on a fast track to the presidency. The only thing is there's probably 100 hurdles before he really gets to clear his name. And I just don't see under his stewardship that he had no idea of any of this happening. That seems, New Jersey is a small, compact state. Christie is a micromanager.
This is a silly bridge thing. I mean, why would he
but it
snap into everything?
it affected a local community whose economy
not
is
by
tied to
much,
it.
not really. They're making a big deal out of it. And
Go
believe
ask
me,
people there.
I was a staffer at the White House, and I was a lower level staffer. I had a lot of power. I could have done something like this easily. Staffers can do these things on their own, and this time they did.
But if you did it, then ultimately, if you did something nefarious, it would have been tagged to the president to say, this is one of your people in your staff.
Not if you didn't know about it.
Well, you do have to have some control of your staff.
But there
Oh
is,
yeah,
there
okay,
is
here we go
command
back to
responsibility.
Obama. Oh, I didn't know anything about Benghazi. Oh, I didn't know,
yeah.
it has to go for the Democrats as well.
It does.
You know, I'm so
Absolutely. It
tired of
should.
the Democrats saying, oh, well, it's okay if Hillary and Obama didn't know about it, but then if Christie doesn't know about this bridge lane, oh, I mean, he's the devil. I'm sorry, it goes both ways.
No,
I absolutely
I
agree that it does go both ways, and we're going to hang on right there, everybody. We've got much more coming up, including the lightning round, a quick look at some of the lighter topics this week.